The Starchild Skull is a real, true bone skull that was found in Mexico in about 1930. The people that found it thought it was just some kind of a deformity and just kept it and didn't really make any effort to find out what it was. That didn't occur until the late 1990s when it came into the possession of a couple in El Paso, Texas, named Ray and Melanie Young. Melanie had been a neonatal nurse for about 15 years, and she knew right away that this was not a typical human deformity and very likely not human, because she and her husband were members of MUFON in El Paso, Mutual UFO Network, so they were very knowledgeable about UFOs and aliens, and Melanie came to the conclusion, which I think after almost 14 years is correct, that this is not a human skull. This is probably the skull of a gray alien. And so over the last 14 years, we've done a number of tests, dozens of tests really, to do with the physical aspects of the skull in comparison to a human skull. And what we have found is that the Starchild Skull has 25 major physical differences between its physical features and a normal human's physical features. And in the ebook that I have, Starchild Skull Essentials, and in the book that I have, the Starchild Skull itself, and on the website, starchildproject.com, there's all this information and photos where anyone can see what these differences are, and we chronicle them very carefully. But those differences are so profound that you cannot actually find a single part on the Starchild Skull that matches up exactly with that same physical part on the human skull. There's not a single point of reference that's the same. So this is very dramatic, but it isn't enough to be convincing to science. What's convincing to science is, of course, DNA. We are very lucky in that the Starchild was it died 900 years ago. We know that from a carbon-14 test, but for those 900 years it was buried in a mine tunnel. So there's just been very little degradation of its DNA. It was like being buried in a climate-controlled storage locker of today, where just, steady temperature, no rain, no sun, nothing to cause serious degradation of the bone, and so it's in good shape. So we can get its DNA, we can recover it, we can sequence it, we can test it, and that's where our thrust is now. And what we have done so far is that we've recovered, of the nuclear DNA's 3 billion base pairs, we have about 50 million recovered, which sounds like a lot, but it's a small percentage of the 3 billion. But nonetheless, it's enough to be very highly indicative that the Starchild is not human, and a lot of its DNA will not be found on Earth. That's what we can tell from that preliminary research. We have recovered 4 fragments of its mitochondrial DNA, which add up to 9.5%. So we almost have 10% of its mitochondrial DNA. And that is significant. That is a mathematically significant number, so that you can make an extrapolation of your results that is viable. And the extrapolation that we can make is that the Starchild's mitochondrial DNA is going to come in at about 700% different from human. What we have determined, and we know and we can project accurately, that the Starchild's DNA is going to be in the range of 700% different from human mitochondrial DNA. The Starchild's mitochondrial DNA will be 700% different, massively different. Then we have another fragment from the working segment of the DNA, not where the 50 million come from, which is the junk DNA, but one small fragment from the working DNA, coding DNA, that is from one of the most important genes in the body. This gene is called forkhead box P2, or FOXP2. And this gene is so important because in embryonic development it controls over 300 of the other 30,000 genes that we all have in our bodies as we develop. So it's at least 300. It could be as many as 1,000. But the point is, FOXP2 controls the formation of some of the most important parts of our bodies. Our brains, our voices in our throats, our lungs, our intestines, pretty much our core. FOXP2 controls the downward flow of genes that create all this. So if there is a mutation, if there is a change, a difference in any of the 2,500, it has roughly 2,500 base pairs in the FOXP2 gene. If there's even one change in those 2,500, you are not born normal if you're born at all. If there are two changes, you won't be born. You will die because too many things go wrong. But there are certain changes that can occur, and you will be born, but you'll be missing your voice, or you'll have some other serious problem. Very rare that someone's born with a faulty FOXP2. All of us normally have no changes at all in FOXP2. No changes at all. If you're a normal human being, every one of your 2,500 base pairs are the same as every other person you're looking at. It's very highly conserved and doesn't change. In the Starchild, we have a 211 base pair fragment. 211 base pairs. In all humans, that's going to be the same. But in the Starchild, we already have 56 differences. So that in the Starchild, from humans having nothing across the whole 2,500, the Starchild is going to have about 700 physical differences. Not 700%, 700. It projects out because we have that 211 is 8% of the whole amount. So the FOXP2 thing is so dramatic, it's so powerful, that anybody that reads it that knows anything about genetics understands that this is a smoking gun. If there's a smoking gun about the Starchild being an alien, genetically, and of us being able to prove it, it is that FOXP2 gene. And then there's another little piece that we have that we've recovered from the working part of it. It's a piece of collagen, a very interesting piece of collagen, because it comes from a very specific part of the lining of the inside of the iris of the eye, a little fragment there. But nonetheless, it's radically different. And the Starchild does have a radically different eye from the human eye. So it just all matches up. So there's no doubt now that when we have the money, when we can find an investor to invest the money with us, that we need to recover the genome of the Starchild, the whole genome, all 3 billion base pairs, that we will be able to make with that result history as big as history can be made. We can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that alien life exists and that we are not alone in the universe. And it's one of the great questions that science claims to want to answer. Are we alone in the universe? And here is this proof, and they really don't want to deal with it because it's going to create a lot of turmoil in their lives and in their careers and all that. And I understand that. I'm sympathetic to that. But nonetheless, I'm going to cram it down their throats, like it or not, and make it happen because it's just time. And if anyone would like to follow up on this, if you go on the internet and you look at anything at all, like Wikipedia or any of the other critical places, areas, or articles that you read saying that the Starchild's just human or forget about it, all of that's lies. All of that is just absolute, groundless lies that have been proven wrong on the website and a number of other places. But you have to understand that the job of mainstream science, this is like just a contest between two teams trying to win a game. There are those who are trying to maintain their dominance in the field and their position, and there are those of us on my team that are trying to beat them, just trying to So this is just a pitched battle between two groups trying to win, who will do anything, pull out all the stops, and these guys have all the power. We have to play the game at their stadium, in their hometown, using in front of their fans, using their rules and their officials. That's how stacked it is against us, because they control the media. They control Wikipedia, they control the internet, and they can put whatever lies they want out there, and there's nothing we can do to change them. And if they see anything on there that challenges the mainstream, they take it off, or they'll change it, or they'll put the mainstream view. Now, in terms of the Starchild on Wikipedia, I can tell you this because someone who knows and looked it up told me that this is the way it is. There have been, over the years, so many back and forth changes on the Starchild page where supporters of the Starchild try to put the truth in, and the administrators who are in charge of keeping the truth out will change it back. That the Starchild page has more changes, pro and con, back and forth, than does the page of ex-President George W. Bush, who is one of the most controversial people in the world. And this guy said, your Starchild is more challenged back and forth than Bush is. Now that's pretty good company if you want controversy. So that just shows you how dedicated those mainstream supporters are to keeping information about things like the Starchild out. Now the Starchild is probably one at the top of the list of things they have to worry about, but we're not the only thing. Anything that challenges mainstream hegemony over community thought about science and about things is a target, and we pay for it. So just if you want to find out the truth about the Starchild, which is easy enough to do, you go to www.starchildproject.com, www.starchildproject.com. You can get the ebook Starchild Skull Essentials, which is very clearly written and easy to understand, very heavily illustrated, well worth it. Or you can get the book, The Starchild Skull, which tells in detail the backstory of the first 7 or 8 years, of the ups and downs of those first 7 or 8 years for those who want to learn more. And there, of course, there are various articles and essays that are copied on the Starchild Project website, as well as test results and things like that. So there's plenty of real, true, valid information out there. But there's also a lot of lies on the other side, and that's just the way it is. Check both sides, and don't just read Wikipedia and what they say. Read what we say, because there's one of the articles in the Starchild Project website is taking the Wikipedia thing line by line, story, bit by bit, point by point, and saying what they say, and then saying what the truth is and where they're distorting it or lying or whatever. All the information is there for those who want to access it. It's just that simple. That's the bottom line. If you want the truth, it's there for you. Just like if all you're interested in is the lies, those are there for you as well.